Well, a minute and 25 seconds. That's the time back to Vicente Garcia Acosta. And about 2 minutes back to the yellow jersey group. Now we're on the flatter part of the course, in between the two big mountains, the Col de la Marie Blanque and, of course, the town of Laurens, which is where they're looking for next. That's where the sprint point is, but that's also about 5 kilometers before the start of the final climb of the day, the 17-kilometer ascent to the summit of the Col de l'Aubisque. So we're looking here at the tête de la course. Carlos Sastre at the front, still prepared to do all of the pacemaking. Gorka Verdugo, Iban Mayo, and the man sitting on the back there is the man who's hoping today that he's going to get himself the lead in the King of the Mountains classification. He's already taken that lead away from Michael Rasmussen, but what's going to be more important than anything is, of course, the points on the finishing line up here at the summit of the Col de l'Aubisque.
So we're now looking at the way down and long drop down. This is the way the Tour de France is these days. I don't think you can hire a camper in the month of July in any of the European countries close to France, because they're all taken a year in advance by the people who come to watch this event. We're along the plateau here now, the little bit of false flat, as we head down towards the Pyrenean town of Laurens, and then we'll start the climb up to the finish.
And that's where I think we're going to start to see the real aggression come, and the attempt to try and get rid of Michael Rasmussen. Something that all of these riders know, it could well be their last time to try and get time back on Michael Rasmussen on this very difficult stage up to the summit of the Col de l'Aubisque at 5,600 feet in altitude.
Well, it's very much a farming area at this time of the year here, although all the animals are moved when the snow falls towards the end of the season, and terrific work still being done. Rabobank have been a fantastic team for Rasmussen. They really have. They've relied heavily on 2 or 3 of their riders. This is Popovic at the back, and this man, he appears dead 1 minute, he's full of life the next, and now he's getting all of the bottles, and he's going back up to the peloton yet again.
Well, he really is a phenomenal rider. Many people have tipped him as a man to rise to stardom. He's finished 3rd overall in the Giro d'Italia, and every year he's improved. He came along to Team US Postal Service to ride alongside Lance Armstrong, and that's where he started to learn the trade of being a Grand Tour rider. Here, I tell you what, another thing, Phil, is Team Discovery Channel are going to extend their lead in the team classification, which they took over from Team Astana, because they've got 3 men in this leading group.
Well, they've been a great team. Well, so too Rabobank. We're a Rabobank in the team, but they can't be that far up, actually, because they keep shedding the men towards the end. They do the work and they drop off. They're 15, the 4th team at the moment. They're a long, long way behind Discovery Channel. So you're right. Discovery could be laying the foundations of winning the team race at least to Paris. But, of course, they want to win the race itself.
Well, Oscar Pereiro here at the back, number 11, runner-up in the Tour de France last year. In front of him, Alejandro Valverde. Valverde has been pretty much surviving over these last few days, but he's still staying there, still staying in contact. And just dropping off the back there was Frank Schleck, who seems to be riding a little bit better today than he did 2 days ago.
Strange, but today, which is the tough day in the Pyrenees, we've had some strange results here. Riders are riding better, others are riding worse. Kirken, for example, is riding worse, so too Aspalosa, but Schleck is riding better. And Patrice Algon, the Frenchman, who is a good climber, has been in trouble every day in the mountains, and today he's only just been dislodged from this leading group.
Just having a look at the rider at the front of the group there. I think that's Vicente Garcia Acosta, who's now been picked up by the yellow jersey group.
So we should see it to swell a little bit on the way down here, but it's going to crack up again for sure in a minute or two.
Case d'Epargne have actually got a pretty strong situation as well here, because they've got 4 riders in the yellow jersey group. That's Frank Schleck just on the back there. He's quite happy to sit there because his man Carlos Sastre is in the breakaway still, and he's still looking at a fairly large advantage over the front end of the main field, because the race situation is that there are 4 leaders. The 4 leaders who have been away for an awful long time, and they now have got 1 minute and 45 seconds over the yellow jersey group.
Well, we're going to be treated some very quick descending down here now, as they try to keep the gaps reasonable as they race to the Col d'Aubisque, because these boys in the breakaway want to be first onto the slopes. This will tell us Euskadi rider Verdugo still up there. Came back well just as they topped the Marie Blanc. This is the advanced peloton now. There was 12 of them went over the summit together. It looks as though they might have picked up 2 or 3 more, that's all.
Sitting on the back there, Frank Schleck. He's had a fairly easy ride here this afternoon. Winner of the Alpe d'Huez stage of the Tour de France last year.
Keeps looking over his shoulder, Paul. I'm not sure, but maybe it's Christian Van der Velde here.
No, Van der Velde was dropped just before the summit of the climb.
I think he's waiting for him to come back.
He may well be just waiting for Christian Van der Velde to come back up. Van der Velde 34th overall, I have to say, riding a very good, solid Tour de France this year, especially when you bear in mind that he's spent a lot of the flat stages looking after Carlos Sastre and keeping him out of the wind.
Yep. It's a tight turn here, very tight turn. Riders put the brakes on. Mayo has gone round first.
Well, you have to be very careful on days like this as well, because the heat has actually started to melt the road a fraction, and we've seen accidents like that in the past. A very tragic accident to Joshiba Balocchi a couple of years ago when he was racing into the town of Gap. He went round one of those corners and just lost it completely. He lost it, and he broke his pelvis on that occasion. 90 kilometers an hour for the yellow jersey group. That's 55 miles an hour.
And then you've got to put the brakes on. This is the same group the motorbike is following at 55 miles an hour, but they've all gone round, leaning heavily. If you're ever down there watching the race on the road, then you'll almost die from the smell of the brakes and clutches of the cars as they follow the riders around these bends.
It's the front end of the course again. It's very strange to feel that every time it goes downhill, he backs off a fraction, and he allows other riders to set the tempo on the front end. They're losing huge chunks of time now. It's almost down to 1.5 minutes.
Yes, they may not get to the Aubisque the way this chase is on.
That's the yellow jersey group. The way the race is going to unfold now is once they get off the slopes of the Col de la Marie Blanc onto the main road, they've got around about 3 or 4 kilometers before they come into the town of Laurens, which is a small Pyrenean village. There is a sprint bonus point, which is at 18.5 kilometers to go. They'll start then to climb up to the town of Obon, and it's at Obon that the Col de l'Aubisque really does start to get that little bit grippy. Obon Mayo as we go through the town of Bielle. It's at 27 kilometers to go to the finish. Taking on board his final drinks. You're allowed to take on drinks up until 20 kilometers to go to the finish, and that's why I think Obon Mayo took that opportunity to get back there as quickly as possible. The sprint point is about 9 kilometers away from here. That's the yellow jersey group. Everybody waiting, everybody trying to muster their last bit of energy for the final assault of the big climb of the day, the Col de l'Aubisque, which climbs up for 17 kilometers. It's a nasty climb. The first part of the climb is at 5.5% and 4% in gradient, but once you start to get up to the top, it averages out at 9%. It's 17 kilometers in total of 7% average, but up towards the top there, it really is an indication of how difficult this climb is going to be, and they all realize this may well be the last chance to turn the overall classification upside down and change the look and the position of all of the other riders. All of the main contenders are basically in that group with the yellow jersey, who's still got 2 very good teammates up with him. Got Michael Bogard and Denny Menchoff. And I think once we get to the slopes of the Col de l'Aubisque, those 2 riders will eventually disappear, and he'll be left up to his own resources to chase down the attacks, which are certainly going to come. And I'm sure that there's going to be a move from Alberto Contador, the rider from Team Discovery Channel, who at 24 years of age is the youngest rider in the race and is second in the overall classification. He needs to try and pull back a minute if he can on Michael Rasmussen if he wants to nurture any chance at all of winning this race with the final individual time trial. If it comes down to the time trial, I think Contador has the advantage over Rasmussen, although he only pulled back 50 seconds in the time trial, which was on a course that actually suited Michael Rasmussen, which we had last weekend. Team CSC, this is the leading group of 4.
25 to go, 4 riders in front. We're looking for 1:31, Paul. They might just tickle the bottom slopes of the Aubisque.
They should survive to the bottom of the Aubisque. You can see the large gears and the riders using on the flat. They're on the flat part of the course, the Vallée d'Oiseau. And once they get up through there, they'll all of a sudden start, slowly but surely they'll start the climb. Once they've gone through the sprint point, it's a gradual climb up to the town of Obon. And it really, once they leave the town of Obon, that's when the climb really starts to get very grippy.
Well, through the inside of the roundabout as we now make the approach here, just for the bird watchers amongst you, this is in fact the breeding grounds of the griffon vultures. We've seen flying over the race. They were introduced back into Spain. The European vulture virtually extinct, and this is where they all hang out as we look down now at the 4 riders who are making today's stage. And as always, out in front, Carlos Sastre trying to get on the podium in Paris.
That's what he's dreaming of. That's why he made the move here this afternoon. He knew today was the last day that he could do that, as we look at 25 kilometers to go for the main field, and we're looking at a gap of 1 minute and 23 seconds.
Well, they're coming back quite alarmingly quickly here now as they're being driven on. There's a bit of help on the front here, because it looks as though Case Depin are also pulling.
Well, this is Vicente Garcia Costa. He's the big man who was in the breakaway early on. He was dropped on the Col de la Marie Blanc, and now all of a sudden he's in this group. He's decided to come forward and do the pacemaking. That would indicate that Alejandro Valverde is probably not feeling too bad here this afternoon, and he's thinking of a victory at the top of the Aubisque.
Well, the thing is with Valverde, you see, he is 10 minutes 41 seconds now behind Michael Rasmussen. He could have a chance of winning the stage. Rasmussen won't chase him because he's got to concentrate on Contador and Evans and Leipheimer. And so you sometimes can win a stage because you're not being observed. Sastre thought he tried that trick.
Well, he thought he'd try that trick, and at one stage he was well up to second place in the overall classification, but we're still battling down. That's an amazing speed that we're looking at in the group of the yellow jersey there. They really are trying to pull back those men. So it's 1 minute and 14 seconds now, and that group of the yellow jersey is made up of only 15 riders. There's 4 riders in there from Case d'Epargne: Pereiro, Arroyo, Garcia Acosta and Valverde. Team CSC have only got 1 man, that's Frank Schleck. Predictor Lotto have got 2 men, Chris Horner and Cadel Evans. Rabobank, we've talked about their men in that leading group. They've got Denny Menchoff, Michael Bogard, and of course the overall leader, Michael Rasmussen. But Team Discovery Channel have also got 3 riders, Leipheimer, Contador and Popovic.
The combinations, the mind boggles here as to just how they will play their cards. But I tell you, when this slopes of this mountain starts, we are going to see a flurry of attacks.
Absolutely. I'm not sure that the attacks will start until we get to Obon, because in the early part of the climb, Phil, it's a gradual false flat at around about 5% in gradient. But this man has been a revelation in the Tour. The man just going past in the polka dot jersey there, Juan Mauricio Soler.
Yeah.
Carlos Sastre has been the brave man of today, but I don't think his efforts are going to be rewarded.
I think he had to play this card. He had absolutely no choice to try it and find out, but I think it is backfiring on him, because they're slowly but surely at a minute now. They can see these riders, actually. This is a long straight road now, and there comes the charge here. It's still a select group. Not so many got back after the descent of the Marie Blanc, that's for sure. That little group now is quite a nice little group of workers, and just up around the corner there are the 4 leaders.
Yeah, they're just around the corner. It's coming down very rapidly, because finally Rabobank have got themselves an ally, and the ally is Vicente Garcia Acosta. It may well be that Alejandro Valverde's got something in those legs. Look at this big man here. Where's number 13? And I'm sure that Denny Menchoff is saying, oh, thank you very much, I needed that.
You bet your life that they needed a break. They'll be very pleased that somebody else has come up. But this will tell everybody else in the group that they can expect an attack from Alejandro Valverde. I don't think it'll be Oscar Pereiro who'll make the move. Probably Valverde. We haven't seen too much of him. There is the man with all the confidence. He knows he climbs well in yellow, Michael Rasmussen. And look at the smooth pedaling 24-year-old behind him, Contador. He has this vicious acceleration that he knows nobody can match.
Incredible acceleration, and I'm sure that Michael Rasmussen will be waiting for that first move to come. He'll be feeling a little bit nervous. He knows today is the final day when they can take time back from him. Time that is basically pretty much still the same time that he got on his big Alpine raid.
Well, Rasmussen has done all he could do so far. This is his 9th day in the yellow jersey, as he sits behind 2 teammates and a little bit of unexpected help from the Case de Pan rider Vicente Garcia da Costa. This is the trip through the Valley Road. Nice little shot there. Study of the man in motion. What do you think he looks like? I mean, is he okay? He looks good to me.
Just twitching his back a fraction, he seems fine. This man, I'm looking at his pedaling style, and it's absolutely phenomenal. He's keeping the cadence nice and high. He's really tickling over those pedals, and he's got 2 teammates in the group with him. Cadel Evans has still got Chris Horner there alongside him as well. Horner up to 15th place in the overall classification. He also looks good. Frank Schleck just getting on the back there. I don't think there's going to be any reinforcements at all for Team CSC. Frank Schleck would be a man to look for the win if he's got his form back this afternoon, because he's 26 3/4 minutes behind Michael Rasmussen in the overall classification. Well, the gap now has come down to 55 seconds with 20 kilometers to go. Very shortly, we will be starting the climb, the last climb of the day. We're about 1.5 kilometers away from the sprint point at Larens. And that's the final sprint of the day. And that's when there's 20 kilometers to go for the leading group of 4 riders. Still Gorka Verdugo sitting on the back. The man in the polka dot jersey seems very happy with his position. He's made a great operation this afternoon. He's got himself a pretty solid lead currently, but there's a lot of points available in that competition.
20 kilometers to go, a minute's lead over the chaser, including the yellow jersey. Paul, these 4 riders, I don't think they're even going to make the start of the climb.
Well, they may not. You know, they're only just around the corner. And the tough thing about a big race like the Tour de France is when the main field or the group, the yellow jersey group like that, they look up the road and they can see the helicopters hovering over the breakaway, and that gives you something to aim for. That's what these riders are looking at right now. And the fact that we've got another team working at the front end of the main field, you're probably right. They will get caught before the start of the Col de l'Aubisque.
That couldn't be the worst time to be caught, quite frankly, because once they start putting the pressure on the bottom, the breakaway is going to be under all sorts of pressure. There they are, under about 50 seconds, I think it was, as the head of that group went underneath at 20 kilometers to go. Just 12 miles. The only trouble is that 9 of those miles are all uphill.
Yes, as we've gone over the Col de la Marie Blanc, we're just in the flat section now before the final climb of the day, and we're now in the town of Larens, which is where the sprint point is. The last sprint point of the day. That's at 18.5 kilometers to go to the finish. And once they leave the sprint point, that's pretty much where the climb actually starts. But as I said in the early part of the climb, Phil, it's not that difficult. It's around about 5 or 6%. It's what we call a false flat, as Juan Maurizio Soler goes around the corner in first place there. He is itching to get to the climb.
Yes, well, he wanted to win the 40 points at the top, but unfortunately it's the stage victory as well, so he'll get mixed up in another battle now for the day's win. That might be the yellow jersey final win as well, because that could all be decided today, although one gets the feeling it may not be. We're into the towns of Larens, and it is 41 seconds the gap. It's still coming down here. There's a small sprint here, but what's the odds on them sprinting? Nothing, I would think.
Around the corner and starting the early slopes of the climb now. The leading group of 4 there, you can hear all the klaxons. So there, Sastre went through the sprint point there, got himself 6 seconds time bonus. Soler was second, Iban Mayo was third. But the main field now, Phil, 40 seconds, so it's really not very much at all.
Well, Sastre went for those 6 seconds at least. It might be all he gets out of the day at the end of it, because I think they've actually swept up, because the gap is now 41 seconds. This is the last. They'll see one more town on the lower slopes of the Aubisque, and then they're out into the bush, and it's a very, very tough climb.
Well, basically all of the main contenders are in that group with the yellow jersey. The only man not in that group is Carlos Sastre, and he's up the road, but only now by 42 seconds. So very shortly, I would say that all of the leading contenders will be together for the start of the final climb of the day.
This is the town of Larens. It is really the base town before we start the climb of the Aubisque. This is the yellow jersey group, and they are closing rapidly on the leaders of the day. 41 seconds is the gap. Carlos Sastre is the man they want back, but I think now we're going to see them throw everything they've got at one another as we start the climb of the Col d'Aubisque.
Another man who you might want to tip for the possible victory this afternoon, if he has recovered, is Frank Schleck. He's in this group, but he's probably the worst placed of all of the riders. He's 22nd, 26 minutes in arrears, and if you remember, he was the winner last year of the Alpe d'Huez stage of the Tour.
Yeah. If things go according to plan, Paul, what we should see is the lower placed riders who can climb try to have a dig early on, because they know that the big riders won't chase them. They're not interested in them. They're concentrating on each other.
That's right. The riders in the first 5 or 6 places have really got to keep a very close eye on each other, which is why it might give the opportunity to one of the riders lower down in the standings to go clear and get themselves a victory. It just depends on how fresh everybody's feeling. I do think, though, that Cadel Evans may well have a try on the early slopes of this climb. You know, back, I think it was a couple of years ago, it was on the slopes of this climb that he actually jumped away to get himself into a breakaway, and on that occasion he climbed up into the top 10 overall.
And he was first over the top of the Col d'Aubisque in that breakaway, so he knows what the climb is like. But this time it's such a different climb, and the finish line is right on the... Well, we're making the left turn here, never a good sign when we go mountaineering, because it usually means the road picks up once you turn off the valley. And very shortly now you will see 17 kilometers to the top, the last mountain of the Tour de France, and everything to fight for.
Absolutely everything to fight for, especially for Michael Rasmussen, because he knows now as he gets to the slopes of this climb that there will be an attack, probably from Alberto Contador, because he knows Contador is itching to try and win the Tour de France. That's Contador sitting there in 4th place. Vicente Garcia Acosta is the rider just slipping backwards. He's done his job for the team, and now he's decided he's just going to ride to the summit of the Col de l'Aubisque and leave it up to Alejandro Valverde or even Oscar Pereiro.
Well, the 4 leaders have started with an advantage of 43 seconds after all of that. At one stage, they were many minutes ahead. Now it is all uphill till they sag over the finish line on the summit. They will race past the commentary positions 6 kilometers from the top, and they will keep going. Well, and I'm not surprised Vicente Garcia has had enough. I don't blame him.
Well, he did a phenomenal job. He was the man who basically knocked 45 seconds off the lead of those 4 riders at the front of the race. Now all he's got to do is try and muster some courage to ride up to this giant of the Pyrenees, the Col de l'Aubisque. You know, they've got about 3.5 kilometers of valley road. It's undulating at around about 5%, and it really kicks in once they get to the town of Obon, and that's where they take a left-hand turn, and to me that's where the real severity of the climb starts.
Well, we're looking here, that was the face of Gorka Viduka there. I think he's being dropped from the front group right now. But let's just think back to the Peresord, Paul. You didn't think so, I did, that Alberto Contador had left it a little bit late to gain time, although in the end it worked out over the rest of the field. But I think today he can't leave it too long on the Aubisque. He needs 2 minutes 23 seconds.
Well, there's a portion of the Aubisque at about halfway up, basically, after 8 kilometers has been covered, where the race kicks up to around about 10%, and that would be the ideal place to try and make his move. Michael Rasmussen does not look like a man in difficulty as he was on the Peresord the other day. He's sitting comfortably there. He's still got 2 teammates. They're setting the tempo to try and nullify any attacks. If they show any sign of weakness or falter, that's when the attacks will start to come.
Meanwhile, back at the front, yes, Gorka's gone. 3 riders are here. And this man that climbs like a crab, frankly, Soler, is such a brilliant mountain climber from Colombia. He just gets all over that bike. He's so reminiscent of a French rider called Robert Albon, who used to always look so ungainly, and he could fly up a mountain. And there's Sastre still looking quite cool. They must know that the chase is only 40 seconds back. It might become a little preoccupied for a moment.
Maybe, but now you can see Denny Menshoff just concentrating. All he wants to do is set an uncomfortable tempo for the other riders in the group, and by doing that, he'll put everyone into a fraction of pain, and that will discourage them from launching the attacks. But I'm sure he won't stop the attacks coming from Alberto Contador there. We just saw Verdugo about to get picked up.
And look how quick they picked him up too. It shows you how close they are. Here's the pacemaking being set at the front still by the brave men from Rabobank. And they're always Menshoff, followed by Bogart and then Rasmussen. They're trying to stay and keep him sheltered for as long as possible. The man in white stalks him, is waiting for the moment, but he's waiting for the climb to steepen, and that's a couple of kilometers yet. There's Verdugo. He's got a nice, pleasant ride up the mountain now. Just enjoy it because he won't be eliminated. The big bunch of riders are about 22 minutes back of him.
15 kilometers to go now for the three leaders, and they're still holding on to around about that 40-second advantage.
Look at Sastre.
There, Sastra's decided to go, and they've put Iban Mayo into difficulty.
Well, Sastra's really launched an attack, and Mayo's been a bit slow to react to that one. It looks as though he's found his strength. He's just going to get back on. But Sastre, these are desperate moments for Carlos. He's realised he's got to do what he can do. He's not going to surrender without a fight, and he's accelerated again.
Well, that was a very brave move, I have to say, by Carlos Sastre, because after all, Phil, he's been sitting on the front end of this move. He's probably done, of the breakaway this afternoon, he's probably done 75% of the work, and Soler all of a sudden can't follow the acceleration of the CSC rider.
15 kilometres to climb to the summit. That's for the main field with the yellow jersey in it. The other three are just a few seconds ahead of them. And this now is Soler. He's also trying to go. But Sastre has gone, and Mayo's gone round him.
Well, Mayo has gone round him, but he's not quite got to the wheel of Carlos Sastre. That's a phenomenal performance by Carlos Sastre, but Mayo has pulled himself back up now. And I wonder if now he'll decide to do some work.
Well, he can't keep on following wheels here. I know he wants to win, but you've got to help somebody sometime to stay away. And the gap has increased just about a second or two. 45 seconds the gap. Mayo has managed to come back to Sastre. I'm a little bit surprised that they nailed Juan Soler there.
Well, Juan Mauricio Soler, he needs to just calm himself down a fraction now. He's been put into difficulty. He's been dropped from these two riders. He actually needs to try and recuperate a fraction because he's going to get picked up by the yellow jersey group, and he still really needs to finish pretty close to Michael Rasmussen if he wants to keep all of the points that he gained today out on the road in the King of the Mountains classification.
He must score some points, otherwise Rasmussen, should he win the day, he'll take 40 back. Double points on the last climb, remember. This is Sastre and Mayo clear of the field as we look down at the chase here. So just looking here at the situation now, 10 seconds to Soler, the main field, less than a minute behind. It could all come together on this climb. Well, Arroyo's got himself back in. I don't know how, because number 12 there is back. Valverde's just in front of him. Pereiro's just in front of him. Horner is here. Cadell Evans is here. And the Discovery Channel have got three riders all together. They are massing for an attack. There's no doubt about that. But they're waiting, as Paul Sherwin has said, for these roads to kick up.
Once it starts to get steep, this area at the moment is still not quite steep enough for a severe attack. We're 13 kilometers to go to the summit. Juan Mauricio Soler will not give up at all. He's looking over his shoulder to see what's the position of the chasing group. Well, they're around about 40 seconds behind this man. He wants to win the King of the Mountains classification. He's just been dropped by Carlos Sastre. Sastre at the start of the day started 5th overall and was looking for 6 minutes and 46 seconds. He's lost most of the advantage he had on the road this afternoon, but now he's thinking of glory, and now he's wondering whether or not he can survive to get himself the stage victory.
Well, he's stamping on those pedals, but he had 43 seconds at the start of the climb. He's now got 52. He is pushing it out with this attack because it's still the two domestics of Rabobank setting the pace, and they can only go to this level. They're not pure climbers at this stage. They're working too hard. They cannot lift it. They're just trying to protect the yellow as long as possible, because when they pull off and expose the yellow, the others will attack.
They certainly will, and that's the moment everybody's waiting for the moment when Michael Rasmussen is isolated from his teammates. Denny Menchoff is riding here like a man possessed. I'm overly impressed with Michael Boga because he is riding the best tour of his career. We're now into the streets of Obon. Very shortly they'll take a left-hand turn, and that's when the gradient starts to kick in and really hurt.
And by the time they get to 6 kilometers to go where we are, believe me, it is very, very steep. Here comes the other hero of the day, and he wants to lighten the load here as he makes this left turn, because he's still in with a chance. Juan Mauricio Soler Hernandez, give him his full name now, because he's been superb today, and he's still looking for that polka dot jersey for keeps.
Well, that's the important thing for him. It's 41 seconds is the advantage, crackling over race radio between the two leaders and the main field, which contains the yellow jersey of Michael Rasmussen. He's made the left-hand turn, and now Iban Mayo's decided to come to the front. Iban, if you want to win the stage here this afternoon, it's no use sitting on the wheel of Carlos Sastre. You need to work with him.
We are now 12 kilometres from the summit and the finish of the Col d'Aubisque here. We're looking at the chase at 48 seconds. It's still the hard work being done by the team of the yellow jersey, Rasmussen. Ahead lie only 3 riders now, 2, 1, and then this group here.
Well, that corner really hurt Denny Menchov. Look at that, he's pulled off now, number 51. He has gone completely out. He came and he hit that corner, the steep gradient, and he said, I can't do this anymore.
Well, I'm not surprised, for goodness sake. He's been terrific, but he searched for those gears. He's put the lowest gear on the bike in to stop those legs cramping up. Now all he can do is get up to the finish. 7 miles uphill, 12 kilometres for him.
Well, don't forget, this man is a winner of the Vuelta a España. There, Carlos Sastre has gone again.
Well, can Mayo do any answer to this? Maybe he hasn't been shamming all race. Maybe he could never work at the front, but look, he can. He's kicked again to try and rejoin Sastre.
Well, he just doesn't have the acceleration of the pure climber, Carlos Sastre, but once he can get the big gear going, he's pulling himself back to him. This, though, is about to be the end, I think, of the breakaway this afternoon, Phil, because if you look there, you can see that it's only 34 seconds between Carlos Sastre, Iban Mayo, and the front end of the field now. Jaroslav Popovic, once the Rabobank riders have disappeared, Jaroslav Popovic has come to the front.
They were waiting, just like hawks in the background. Poor old Chris Horner couldn't answer the lift of acceleration there. He has dropped now. That's left Cadel Evans on his own in this front group. Here comes the traffic jam. We've got to get through with the cameras. Now Popovic is now pacing Contador, and now they've exposed Rasmussen.
He is completely exposed. There are 3 riders here from Discovery Channel. Look at Levi Leipheimer just sitting on the wheel of Michael Rasmussen. Now is the moment when Contador is waiting for the steep gradient to really kick in. David Arroyo is saying goodbye to the front end of this group, but he's still going to stay well up in the overall classification. Jaroslav Popovic is the man for Team Discovery Channel here. There's Cadel Evans over on the left-hand side, looking fairly good, waiting for the accelerations to start.
Well, we're looking at the leaders, but I hope we don't miss the move, because I can almost guarantee the next attack will come from Levi Leipheimer on this climb. This is the man split between the 2 leaders and the chasers behind, and he's still trying to hold them off and fight, but very shortly they're going to be up with him now, because he can't hold them off possibly. The infighting has begun.
Well,
there they are.
There they are. There's the yellow jersey. There is Jaroslav Popovic. This has been, again, a real tough battle. This man, Heimar Zubeldia, was 6th overall at the start of the day. He is with Michael Bogard. He has now just got to find a rhythm and survive the final slopes, the final 11 kilometres of climbing in this year's Tour.
Well, as we come to this hairpin bend, this is the chase now. 25 seconds is the spread. This is Juan Soler, shortly to be joined. There they come now, the high-revving Discovery Channel boys. They are paving the way for an attack by Leipheimer now. Now, the yellow jersey of Rasmussen. He must be feeling which one is going to go for me first.
Well, that's what he's waiting for. He knows that the attack is going to come, and Team Discovery Channel have got themselves a very nice situation here. Frank Schleck at the back, just in front of him, Alejandro Valverde. In front of him, Oscar Pereiro. The polka dot jersey there of Juan Mauricio Soler is slotting into the wheel there of Cadel Evans.
Well, sitting at the back here is Frank Schleck. It's still looking pretty okay here for a man that struggled in his mountains these last few days. Tagged on to the back behind Alejandro Valverde, Pereiro, but this is the race now. This is the tempo being set by Popovic to try and pave the way for Contador to break the yellow jersey. He will keep it as long as he can, and then it's up to the rest.
Well, then he will wait until the steepest part of the climb, and it might be a good move to be set up by Levi Leipheimer. You see Leipheimer is sitting in an ideal position there. He's right on the wheel of the yellow jersey, just waiting for the moment to make a move. But Jaroslav Popovic is doing a phenomenal job here, just like Rabobank did in the early part of this race. Now this is the offensive of Team Discovery Channel. They realise they've got 10 kilometres here to try and win the Tour de France for the team structure for the 8th time. Lance Armstrong has won the Tour on 7 occasions for Johan Brunel. Now he's trying to win it again with that young man at 24 years of age.
And Carlos Sastre still touring along the yellow clad here of Iban Mayo. 20 seconds is the spread now, 10.1 kilometres to the summit. It's not. There's the 10 kilometre to go banner, all of it uphill and all of it probably the hardest climbing of the day. After 200 kilometres, the gap is now down 15 seconds. There's been a crack here. Pereiro is unhitched at the back. Looking at the back of the field, it's Schleck, Pereiro and Valverde all unhitched at 10 kilometres to go. Now the pressure's gone on and it's Discovery driving it.
Well, it's Jaroslav Popovic doing all of the work here to try and set something very special up in the last big mountain of this year's Tour de France. They are riding everyone off their wheels. They've been sitting, Phil, in the main field all day, thinking about this. This has been in the back of their minds all of the time. Levi Leipheimer is sitting there very comfortably. So too was Cadel Evans. But surely once they get to about 8 kilometres to go, that's when it starts to get steep. That's when the man from Spain, Alberto Contador, has to make some kind of a move. Let's not forget, Phil, he's looking for 2 minutes and 23 seconds. He's got to go a long way out.
Well, look at the face on Popovic here. He can't go on much longer at this speed. Contador's sitting there as if he wants to attack, but he's holding back. Keeps checking where the yellow jersey is. Very unusual that they've put the yellow jersey behind them here. This is a very select five-man group. Leipheimer and Evans make it up. And this man is holding them off, but how?
Well, if this man can stay inside of the top 10 on the stage, I'm pretty certain he's going to keep that lead in the King of the Mountains classification. There are the two leaders, and there is the select group of the yellow jersey, the white jersey, and Levi Leipheimer and Cadel Evans.
9 kilometres to go, and it looks as though now this is the move. We knew that once we got to the steep side, Leipheimer will launch the first attack. Rasmussen is itching. He's got to make a decision now. Do I go after Levi? Do I gamble he won't get the time? Or do I look at Contador? And this is decision time for the yellow. He's coming back at Leipheimer.
This is a very good move here. I wasn't surprised to see that move coming by Levi Leipheimer. Popovic has done his job. He's disappearing from the group. He must now just try and survive. But what they've done is set up a launch pad now for Alberto Contador to go over the top. Levi Leipheimer looks over his shoulder. He can now see the yellow jersey. Just sitting on his wheel there is Alberto Contador, and Cadel Evans is very comfortable.
Well, now split the whole of the Tour de France around the mountain here, but there we now have Levi Leipheimer setting the tempo, still protecting the young protege, because we now have the top 4 riders overall: Rasmussen, Contador, Evans and Leipheimer, and we're still hunting. Now these are all together now. These are the leaders of the race. Here is Karl Strasser. He's been caught and left by the group.
Yep, it was all in that little bit of confusion at the moment when Levi Leipheimer was launching his attack. We came right onto the wheel of Carlos Sastre and Iban Mayo. Then all of a sudden, it was a dynamite at the front end, and it was all done by Levi Leipheimer. Now he is going to be the sacrificial lamb here. He's on the front for Discovery Channel there, thinking whether or not they can put the man in the yellow jersey, Michael Rasmussen, into a spot of bother here this afternoon. They are just waiting. I can see the little twitches there coming from Alberto Contador. He's waiting for the steepness. He's waiting for the moment to try and make his move. He needs to try and pull back a minute today if he wants to nurture any dreams, Phil, of winning the Tour de France this year.
This Tour de France has come down to 4 men. They already occupy the top 4 places in the race, and they are now locked together. Cadel Evans at the back there, I think he's right to watch and make the other 3 work, because he wants to be the first Australian on the podium in Paris. He still has a chance of finishing second, and if the cards fall right, he can still win this race. So he's going to watch and wait and see how these other 3 play it out now. They're using Leipheimer. They've no choice but to use Leipheimer. Poor old Sastre here rides the road in 5th place. So the first 5 riders in the Tour de France are climbing the mountain in that order right now. 9 kilometres almost to go towards the end of this stage. These 4 riders, first Michael Rasmussen, second Contador, third Evans, fourth Leipheimer. It's not quite that order as we look at them. Leipheimer is the sacrificial lamb for Discovery Channel. He's setting it up for the boy in white.
Well, he's dropping back a little bit here, Alberto Contador. I'm sure he's waiting for a steep moment to try and make some kind of a move. And Michael Rasmussen knows that. He knows he's got the yellow jersey on his shoulders. He knows he's just got to protect it for another 9.2 kilometres into the darkness of the tunnel. I wonder who's going to come out.
We can't go in there with our cameras. We'll drop back and show you what's happened behind. This is Pereiro, second in the Tour last year, has been dropped now with Frank Schleck And the man just in front, number 18, is Alejandro Valverde, who has got worse and worse, one has to say. As they come out the tunnel, it's still the same. As they go under one of the rock shields here, it's like not a tunnel this, it just prevents the avalanche breaking the road up. Well, there's a bit of a tornado gone through it.
Well, we've still got to wait as they're in the darkness now, and there's Contador's
There
move.
it is. Here we have the attack. The attack now by Contador still says 9.2 kilometres, a bit closer than that. And where is Rasmussen? This is the acceleration Rasmussen hates. He has to pick the tempo, but it takes him moments to do.
Well, he's got to make the move, man. Michael Rasmussen must not panic. This was the acceleration. As soon as we came out of the tunnel, he looked for that move, and he now knows this is a possibility of winning the Tour de France this year. Looks over his shoulder, and he can still see the shape there, Phil, of the yellow jersey.
Well, as Contador now climbs away, Rasmussen is a little bit confused here. He's got 2 minutes 23 seconds in hand. He can afford to lose a little bit, but not a lot. Cadel Evans content just to follow the yellow jersey. Where's Leipheimer? Is he still there? Yes, he is. And Contador just checking here as to whether to go. He's waiting. Well, that's attack one.
Well, that's attack number one. If Cadel Evans has got the legs this afternoon, this would be an ideal moment for him to try and go for the victory, because you know what? Michael Rasmussen may not chase Cadel Evans down. He starts the day, Cadel, 4 minutes behind Michael Rasmussen in the overall classification. Levi Leipheimer has now brought himself back up to the yellow jersey. The yellow jersey is defending.
Well, now we're down to just over 8 kilometres as we look now. Forget the group Valverde, it's back to nearly a minute. This is the group now. Sastra's chasing at 32 seconds behind, but we now have at 8 kilometres from the summit, 5 miles to climb. Rasmussen, well, he's so confused and he knows they're going to hit him again. He's got to work out when. Levi's gone from the back now. What's he going to do? This is the second attack by Levi Leipheimer. Paul, Team Discovery are operating like a superb machine here. They're hitting him every chance they've got.
Well, that was a move, and really, if Rasmussen was a little bit more intelligent, he wouldn't have chased this down. He doesn't need to chase this down. Leipheimer's 5.5 minutes behind him in the overall classification, but they're actually playing, Rasmussen is playing into the hands now of Team Discovery Channel, because I would think as soon as they make the junction, Contador will go again.
Well, if Leipheimer starts to slip away, of course, Cadel Evans has got to go after him, because he's not that far behind him overall, a minute 25. So Cadel's also playing a rather risky game here, but so far it's working out. These are the riders falling back here as Mayo goes back, and the faces there of the riders. But they're riding now over a minute behind what is the action up front. 7.6 kilometres still to go. The leaders now, there they are, 4 of them by the way, as we're looking here at the Case de Pont riders. But I'll tell you what, Leipheimer is back in that group, Paul, but he's going to have to launch another attack, I think. Well,
Leipheimer is in the group. The race situation currently, the 4 leaders are 30 seconds ahead of Carlos Sastre, and they're still ahead of Soler, who Soler is holding on to 6th place on the road at the moment, and then about a minute back is the group containing Alejandro Valverde and all of those riders from Case d'Epargne. Levi Leipheimer is working for his teammate here this afternoon. They're trying to put the yellow jersey into difficulty, and just sitting there, Alberto Contador does not seem to have the same legs as he had 2 days ago, but I'm sure he will have another try. He will not give up.
These are the 4 leaders at 7.2 kilometres, led by Levi Leipheimer now, who sits 4th overall. So far, Rasmussen has answered everything thrown at him. Contador is going to have to go again because time is running out at 7 kilometres. He still needs 2 minutes 23 seconds. Cadel Evans, quite rightly, is letting... There he goes. This is the acceleration that Rasmussen hates, and there's no reaction from any of them yet.
Well, this is a good move by Alberto Contador. He will keep throwing these accelerations as often as he can, but Rasmussen will just have to ride himself back slowly but surely. He won't get any help from the 2 riders with him, Levi Leipheimer or Cadel Evans. He's got a slight gap there for the moment. Now, Michael Rasmussen has to find something. He's got to dig deep and pull himself back to the man who's challenging him.
He's incredible, Rasmussen. He can't do that acceleration, but once he gets up to high end, he can ride himself back into the race. Cadel Evans out of the saddle, working, I think, to stay in touch with these 3 climbers. And Cadel Evans himself is a great climber, but this time maybe Contador's going to crack Rasmussen.
Well, Contador has given that acceleration again. He's one of the rare climbers in the world who can accelerate again and again on the slopes of a climb, but Rasmussen needs to be calm, Phil. He needs to calm his inner self at the moment and find a rhythm and slowly pull himself back up to the Spaniard.
Well, as Rasmussen tries to find that rhythm, he's cracked Levi Leipheimer here, and quickly Cadel Evans nips round him and back onto the back wheel. The top three riders in the Tour de France are coming together.
Well, if Cadel Evans can move across as smoothly as that, Cadel needs to start thinking about whether he should launch an attack here this afternoon.
We're looking at 6.5 kilometres to go now, and we have the three top riders on the classification together. Leipheimer a little bit in oxygen debt there, and now look at this as they go shoulder to shoulder. Rasmussen is going to hit Contador.
Well, he's tried. I think he's going to try his own offensive now, but look how easy Contador is. He's all over Rasmussen. Another move by Contador.
Well, Contador's counting the move. Poor old Cadel here is just having to stay outside of the slipstream of these two boys. 6.4 kilometres to climb now as the riders come up the steepest slopes here. This is going to be a terrific ride now. Cadel Evans is going to have to recover. He's still sitting third in this race, and that won't damage that today.
Well, Cadel Evans is just riding at his own pace here this afternoon, as we can see these two men slowly looking at each other, wondering where the next move is going to come from.
Well, the battle as they go underneath our commentary box here. Look at the crowd as they ride round here. The three have come together on the climb. It's the yellow jersey on the front. Contador, Evans is back in the game. Then there's a small gap to Levi Leipheimer. We are seeing a terrific Tour de France.
Well, Levi Leipheimer not too far off the back of these riders, and he will try and battle his way back in if he can. But the yellow jersey now, Phil, has got to dictate a pace. He's got to dictate the pace to the other riders to try and prevent any further attacks at 6 kilometres to go. Cadel Evans has pulled himself back into this group. The crowd here are going absolutely ballistic because they know they are witnessing a battle on the slopes of the Aubisque.
Well, if they get to the Aubisque, these three riders ahead of the field, they are going to be the top three finishers in Paris. It will still be unclear what the final order will be. Sastre is now riding at a minute. Just behind this group is Levi Leipheimer. Valverde, forget him, he's a long way back. Here is poor old Carlos Sastre, played a great card today, and he's still somehow finding the strength to limit his losses.
Well, there's another
move
here.
Paul, another one.
Contador will not lay down arms until he gets to the summit of this climb here this afternoon. He's giving every acceleration he's got, but actually Michael Rasmussen's looking a little bit more comfortable now as once again Cadel Evans can't respond to these incredible accelerations.
Cadel is right to stay at his own rhythm. He's mixing it with two of the greatest climbers in the world, and Leipheimer's back up to Cadel. Leipheimer has rejoined Cadel Evans on the climb, while the two men in the top two positions, they're now drawn swords and they're fighting a personal duel.
Well, this is unbelievable, the way this Contador can accelerate on the slopes of some of these climbs. He puts himself into the slipstream of Michael Rasmussen. I think he's just trying to recuperate for a fraction. I'm sure he's going to try and hit him again. He knows he's got to keep going. If he wants to win the Tour, he may well never get an opportunity like this again. So he's got to keep going all the way to the summit. He's got to get some time back today.
Those long, thin legs of Michael Rasmussen, they call him chicken legs, is now back in control. He's answered everything they've thrown at him today. He's been absolutely superb, but how much longer can Michael Rasmussen keep resisting the attacks of this man Contador? This is Cadel Evans. He's been rejoined by Leipheimer. Leipheimer won't help Cadel Evans because that would damage Contador's position.
Well, Contador just sitting there. He's forcing Michael Rasmussen to do the pacemaking. Just 14 seconds separate the two leaders from Cadel Evans and Levi Leipheimer there, just sitting in second position behind the Australian. Right now, Phil, all Cadel can do is get himself into a situation where he just needs to ride at his own tempo, a tempo that is comfortable, and he has to really just think about limiting his losses.
As the camera pulls back here, the road opens like a chasm on the Col d'Aubisque, as the riders now, all sorts of things spread down. This is the lone figure of Carlos Sastre. He must be suffering beyond belief right now, hanging on to 5th place in the race and 5th place on the road. And now Leipheimer is riding away from Evans.
Well, Leipheimer has seen the opportunity. He wants to get back up there, I think, to see if they can do anything else to put the yellow jersey into difficulty. So Levi Leipheimer now is riding across the gap. He's at 10 seconds from these two leaders.
Leipheimer is 1 minute 25 behind Cadel Evans overall. They both ride terrific time trials. So Leipheimer needs to close the gap on Evans to have any chance on Saturday of claiming third place in this race.
Yeah, he's looking for a minute and 25 seconds if he can to pull himself up to a podium position as well. Levi Leipheimer has gone. Cadel Evans now needs to sit down in the saddle, get himself calm and collected as they see the banner indicating 5 kilometres to go to the finish.
A massive 5 kilometres. It's all uphill. It's at least 12 minutes racing for 5 kilometres, probably more than that, as these riders now are still waiting for the next move. You've got to say that Michael Rasmussen's been pretty good today, Paul. He's marshalled every attack.
He's riding like a champion. He's riding like the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. He has to control himself. Levi Leipheimer has almost got to the tail of the two leaders now. He's got a 3-man leading group.
We've just passed under 5 kilometres to go, and now Leipheimer has just bridged up to the 2 leaders. So it's 2-team discovery against the Rabobank leader of the Tour. And now the crowd, he wants the crowd out of the way. He needs space.
He needs space, he wants to breathe, he wants to concentrate on the final 4.9 kilometres. Shouting into the ear of the Spaniard are the Spanish fans, asking him to go out and try and win the Tour de France for them. This is further down the road. Jaroslav Popovic is about to catch Juan Mauricio Soler. What a great ride this man has done this afternoon. He's about to get picked up there by the group of Alejandro Valverde.
So he's being swept up here. There's no doubt where the battle is, though. It's between the yellow jersey, the white jersey, and now Levi Leipheimer. I wonder if Cadel Evans can bridge as well, if he can just go back into the yellow zone and then race back up to those 3 leaders. But look at the face here of Rasmussen. He's keeping a pace here, which has brought the other 2 a little bit under control, I think. And look at this, Paul. Cadel is also getting back.
Well, he's ridden sensibly, you see. He knows that he's not the kind of rider who can respond to these accelerations of Contador and Rasmussen. He has to ride at his own solid tempo and ride himself slowly back into the group. That's what he's doing. He's reduced his deficit now to just about 10 seconds. He's keeping an eye on those riders in front, and that's what his goal is now, is to make the junction once again.
Well, these 2 guys, judging by those pedal strokes, are pedaling exactly the same gear up the mountain today. They're shoulder to shoulder. Leipheimer's made the effort to rejoin. I'm not sure he's got the strength to do much more than just sitting third wheel at the moment. Cadel Evans, a little bit of a flat here before we kick again. But they are going so quickly up this mountain. Cadel, and look at this, Leipheimer's going. This is another attack.
Well, Leipheimer wants the stage here this afternoon, Phil. He wants to do everything he can, not only for himself, but for the team. They will throw everything they can at Michael Rasmussen. Rasmussen's getting very upset with the television cameras here this afternoon. He believes that those television cameras are encouraging the other riders to attack. Leipheimer takes up first position. He's looking this afternoon to try and see if he can grab a podium position as well.
Well, our camera's staying out of the way, I think. It's for short and shot, that, as Leipheimer's been mastered now by a very calm yellow jersey. And look at this now. He's not quite as close as he appears, but he is closing it down. 4 kilometres to go, and still no decision.
Well, Leipheimer swings off. OK, Michael, you're the man who's in the yellow jersey. You set the pace-making on the front.
Well, I'm not too sure whether he seemed to pat Leipheimer on the back there and push him back in the lead.
Well, he knows, you see, he's playing a very clever card here. He knows that Leipheimer's looking for a 3rd place in the overall standings, but Levi Leipheimer knows that he's got to get rid of Cadel Evans. Cadel hasn't cracked at all here. He's riding at his own pace. He's trying to make sure that he limits his losses. He started the day with 1 minute and 25 seconds advantage over Levi Leipheimer, and he needs to conserve that.
And I think if he can hold it for the next couple of kilometres, then he will go to the time trial shoulder to shoulder with Leipheimer, and they shouldn't be too far apart on the day because they both ride an excellent time trial. I don't think they can close down the gaps to Contador and Rasmussen. That will go to the time trial as well. Leipheimer is still setting the pace, and Evans just keeps on looking at them, and Leipheimer looking over his shoulder to see where Evans is. He won't be happy. We can see him. 4 kilometres to go for Carlos Sastre.
Carlos Sastre riding his own lonely ride here at 1 minute and 8 seconds. I tell you what, though, it is all about the battle of the three men at the front of the race, and the crowds here all want it to be a Spanish victor. I'm absolutely certain of that. Nobody yet has really been able to uncouple the yellow jersey.
Well, the battle has been due. We expected it because they believed they could sort out the final result of the Tour de France today. That has not been the case. If it finishes like it is, it's still going to the time trial. The yellow jersey of Rasmussen's getting a bit twitchy here. He's almost telling the guys, look guys, you can't beat me, so why don't you stay behind me?
And all of this is actually playing into the hands of Cadel Evans, who's slowly but surely pulling himself back to those riders. He's just hoping he can make the contact before he gets up to the summit. So Levi Leipheimer now thinking about his goal, and that is a podium position in Paris, is moving forward. And Johan Brunel was right yesterday, Phil. This is Levi Leipheimer's best ever Tour de France.
No question at all. He's had a wonderful tour, and how unlucky to get somebody on your team who's gone that bit better in a 24-year-old newcomer from Spain. But that's the way it is. They're professional cyclists. Victories for the team, not for the individual as far as they are concerned. And if they can get Contador into yellow, so be it. But I'm not so sure. Rasmussen doesn't like our TV camera being this close. He wants room here to operate, because he felt the other day on the Peyresor that all the motorbikes were a little bit too close, and they aided Contador when he was launching all those attacks.
Cadel Evans suffering here now. This is Juan Mauricio Soler, Phil. I don't know where he's found his energy,
back again,
because he's pulling himself back up to Carlos Sastre. He's going to be looking at being in 5th place on the road. Now, he wants the king of the mountains, and if he finishes in the top 6 places, he's pretty much got that sewn up tonight.
Well, that's it, and he's gone right round Sastre as our cameras are switched back here to the big three battle of 3 unbelievable climbers. Make it 4, because Evans is hanging in. A private world of hell for Cadel Evans back there, trying to control these 3 guys at 3 kilometers to go.
Levi Leipheimer doing the job of the teammate for Alberto Contador, setting the pace. Contador not looking quite as frisk as he was a couple of days ago, just going through there. Cadel Evans is at around about 15 seconds.
Oh, look at the face of Cadel Evans. You could fill a water bottle with the perspiration running off his face right now as he tries just to hold them. He knows he's got to limit his losses, especially to Leipheimer. He's dreaming of a podium place in Paris. No Australian's ever been there, and he's still holding them in his sights. And
that's what Levi Leipheimer is dreaming about also. He wants that podium position himself if he can. He wants to try and pull himself up into 3rd slot, but he's looking for 1 minute and 25 seconds. There are time bonuses at the finish line. Let's not forget 20 seconds for the first rider to cross the line, 12 seconds and 8 seconds, and I'm sure Cadel Evans knows that. Juan Mauricio Soler is now in 4th position on the road, 5th position on the road.
Has a little bit levelling just in front, but he kicks around this corner again at 2.8 kilometers to go. That's for the leaders. Here comes Juan Hernandez. He's underneath in 1st place, 3K to go, and still needs those points, double points. He needs them in the bank, because the way this is going, Rasmussen could win this stage, and he's so annoyed with these motorbikes now.
Well, I'm not. He just keeps waving at them, and unfortunately, that's
well, there they all are. Look at them all.
Well, that's all part and parcel of the professional racing. You need the motorbikes to bring the pictures. You need the motorbikes to make you famous, and that's what he needs to understand. And even if he thinks that those motorbikes are going to assist the movement of Levi Leipheimer, they could also assist him as well. He's sitting there. He looks a little bit under pressure, but I have to say, I think Contador is looking a bit under pressure now.
Yes, I think Contador has put his moves in, and he hasn't gotten. There will be a death throw from one of them, or if not both of them. As again, now he wants these bikes to get out of it, but he's really getting himself too excited here. Get on with the job in hand, I would think. Here comes Levi Leipheimer. He said it would all happen in the Pyrenees. He's been simply superb. He's tried to play the cards. So far, they haven't worked. The man in yellow is hanging in there and taking everything Team Discovery to throw at him. We've never seen a contest like this on the mountain for years.
Not for years and years. The way the race is unfolding at the moment, we're looking at the 3 leaders here, Rasmussen, Leipheimer, Contador. Cadel Evans has slipped back a bit now to 19 seconds. Soler Hernandez is at 1 minute and 12 seconds, and a bit further back, 1 minute and 41 seconds back to the Valverde group.
Cadel could be losing because those 3 guys get small time bonuses. He could lose half of his advantage over Leipheimer, and that will be a bit touch and go in the time trial. Cadel rides as good a time trial as Levi. As Soler is heading up here as best he can, and he's getting rid of Sastre, and he seems to be riding faster than anybody right now.
Well, he's got a very low gear in, and he may well be recovering on the upper part of this climb here this afternoon. You can see that the man in third position there, Alberto Contador, sitting a little bit lower than he has over the last couple of days, and he's now, I think, just very happy to be in this situation. Michael Rasmussen is waving and gesticulating all of the time. He really, as you said, Phil, needs to concentrate and forget about any of this. He's talking to the team manager.
He's talking back to the team car, saying, tell the referees to get these bikes out of here. And you know, he's riding so well. This guy is not under pressure. He's just climbing the mountain, and he's going to carry all of his advantage into the time trial. 2 kilometers to go. The yellow jersey still following Leipheimer. Contador, I think, hasn't got the kick anymore to try and take the race lead.
Well, you can't say he didn't try. Cadel Evans now trying to keep himself in contact. He's actually pulled back a few seconds. He's now at 17 seconds with 2 kilometers to go. He's trying to keep himself in that podium position. The chaos as we get up towards the summit of this climb. Levi Leipheimer is still doing the pacemaking. I think he's doing this work to try and set up the possibility of a victory there for his own teammate Alberto Contador. But Contador gets out of the saddle, stays in contact.
Well, if he gets the win, he gets 20 seconds bonus. Rasmussen will probably take second under the circumstances. Evan, it looks to me, he's come up the gears a bit now. He's really giving that some terrific effort towards the top of the climb. He still is holding his third place finish in Paris. And look at that, that's the top of the Col d'Aubisque with the huge crowd down there waiting for the arrival of the race. We've seen a one-on-one battle. We expected it, and we've seen it. 2 kilometers to go, too, for Juan, I've forgotten his name, Soler.
Juan Mauricio Soler. He's at 1 minute and 4 seconds. He's actually climbing faster than these guys are at the front now. And still, Michael Rasmussen asking the motorbikes to get out of the way. I think he's a little bit scared that there might well be another move coming from Alberto Contador, but I'm not sure the 24-year-old Spaniard's got that much left this afternoon.
Well, that's actually a still photographer who's there now, getting the shot before he goes to the finish, as now we come up to approach the last kilometre of the Pyrenees and the last kilometre to the finish line here. 2 kilometres for the chase behind here, but this is the Valverde-Pereiro duo, and they're just coming up, I don't know where they are, about 6th or 7th now.
Yes, they're still trying to keep themselves in contention. The Pereiro looking after Alejandro Valverde there. Levi Leipheimer still prepared to do the pacemaking at the front. Cadel Evans is locked in at between 18 and 20 seconds. But you can see here Contador looking over his shoulder, wants to try and ascertain what the difference is. Where is this man, Cadel Evans? And still, he's battling with his machine, Cadel, this afternoon. He's using a much bigger gear than any of the other riders.
Well, the last time check on Cadel will be right there as we see 1 kilometre to go. It looks as though Levi has done his stuff now. Now it's up to Contador. It's the same 2 we saw racing into Ludombiel as they battle it out between themselves. Now the white jersey is going to follow the yellow jersey and try and take the stage away from him. But this has been the day of yellow jersey today. He has handled himself so well, and is he distancing him? I think he's cracked Contador.
Well, he's got the acceleration on the steeper part at the top end of this climb. The Discovery Channel riders have done everything, and now Rasmussen's gone.
Well, that is the Tour de France winner as he heads up towards the line now. They threw every piece of ammunition on the ship at him, and it was not enough. Michael Rasmussen is now free to fly and win the Tour de France.
Well, they gave everything they had, the riders from Team Discovery Channel here this afternoon, but now all of a sudden this man is riding with anger. He wants to win the Tour. He wants to increase his lead in the overall classification, and they're not going to see him anymore this afternoon.
Well, Michael Rasmussen now is building on all of his adversaries in time. He started with 2:23 on Contador. A 20-second time bonus awaits him as well. So, youth again, 24 years of age, Alberto Contador. He tried today to do it, but I think the stamina not quite there in the young body. This man, quite a few years older, 6 years older, more. He's now moving up to the line here, and with it, every pedal rev, he gained another few seconds. This has been a very demonstrative day for Michael Rasmussen.
Well, he knew he was going to come under pressure. He knew that the pressure would come from Team Discovery Channel. They did everything. Levi Leipheimer now is piloting Alberto Contador to the summit of this climb. Contador quite happy now, I think, to sit with his teammate He's done an awful lot. He attacked so many times, but you could see by his body language, Phil, that he was really under pressure. He's sitting a lot lower. He's sitting on the front end of his saddle, just trying to keep himself going forward. Let's not forget, he's only 24 years of age. He can come back to the Tour in the future.
Well, here is Michael Rasmussen now as he races up to the finishing line, high in the Pyrenees. For the last 2 years, the king of the mountains. At this time, he's king of the Tour de France. He stamps on the pedals here, and he's going to feel so happy inside that he's rid himself of the two riders on Team Discovery. The clock will start as soon as he hits the line. I think Leipheimer will try and get Contador over in second place because of the slightly bigger time bonus, which might yet decide this Tour de France.
Well, I'm not sure whether he will, because in fact he might need the time bonus himself, because Cadel Evans is now at 54 seconds, and there it is.
The victory by Michael Rasmussen, that is a real punch in the skies, and it might well turn out to be the stage that has won him the Tour de France. Look at the set jaw now as they try to save second here. Contador could not hold on to Levi. He's pushing on here to snatch the second bonus. He's still looking for third place, at least in Paris in a few days' time. He can deliver a great time trial, Levi Leipheimer.
Alberto Contador came in 9 seconds behind his teammate, 8 ahead of Cadel Evans, and over half a minute behind Rasmussen.
At this stage of the race, with this race tomorrow and Sunday, that's the end of it for the sprinters. So they've got 3 shots at the finishing line. There is only 1 point between Hunter and Zabel for second place. There he goes again. It's only a matter of time. He saw 4 to go, and off he goes. That's Jens Voigt and Bernardi. Look how the speed of that man as he immediately rips out of the saddle and chases Jens Voigt. The others are much slower to react.
Well, Bernardi, like a cat, you see that pounce as soon as he felt. He almost just heard the whistling of the tyres of Jens Voigt, and without even hesitating, waiting for anybody else to take the move, he went straight after Jens Voigt. That's an indication this man is ready for the win here this afternoon. He knows a man like Voigt, you don't give him 50 metres and Voigt will go again, but straight away Bernardi's there in his slipstream.
Yeah, and when Jens sees who it is, he'll sit up because he won't out-sprint Bernardi, and he won't want to carry him anywhere. Then again, he might try to just take one to the line. The other two are messing about a little bit. They're not quite as strong as Bernardi, and look at that flick of the wrist saying, come on, the other two are gone, work with me, and Bernardi has gone and done just that.
Well, Bernardi realises already improved his chances here. Elminger won't give up. Elminger's a very strong rider. There he is, there just at the front of these two chasers, and he's got himself arched right over his handlebars. Voigt has seen this as an opportunity and thought, well, I'll keep going, but you know, it's back together at 3 kilometres to go. It's still 4 men.
As they continue now, they fought their way back. Martin Elminger takes a look over his shoulder at Marcus Voigt and said, hey, thanks for all the help you gave me catching these two. Nothing.
Absolutely nothing, but don't worry, Jens Voigt will try again. He's already seen now that there's a weakness. The 2 other riders at the back there are not quite as strong as the 2 men at the front, but he's already seen that Daniele Bernardi has got the zip, he's got the acceleration, but that can be dangerous because you've showed your cards.
Now, who's going to go next? They're going to be very nervous now. All the trust is gone now. They don't turn their back. They know somebody will go again, and the gap has gone up with that flurry of attacking. We're now outside of 10 minutes for the first time. 2.6 kilometres to go. Jens Voigt, Martin Elminger, Daniele Bernardi, Marcus Foten. 4 different teams. Foten has been forced through now. He's probably the youngest rider here. In fact, he is. Followed by Elminger.
Well, Foten was thinking there, shall I have a go myself? I could just see the muscles starting to twitch a fraction, but Elminger says no, at 2 kilometres to go, let's just keep the pace nice and high. Let's not mess around like this anymore, because we might as well get ourselves to the finish and just run it out man-to-man in a drag strip race to the finish line.
Now, let me see, 1.5 kilometres to go. Expect Jens Voigt perhaps to shoot off the back of this group. Nobody wants to play anymore. Now Foten wants to find out where Jens Voigt is, and look at that. Voigt opens the door and makes Foten go in and close it.
Seasoned campaigner Jens Voigt, very careful now. You see Elminger now has got himself a little bit of a gap, but look how attentive Daniele Bernardi is there. Every time there's a small gap, he's the one who nails it back. But this is getting dangerous for him. He's got to keep an eye on the other riders in the breakaway. He wants to get into the final kilometre. Then he'll start to feel a little bit relaxed. He's feeling now like a track sprinter. He's been put on the defensive, looking over his shoulder. He knows these guys know that he's the fastest rider in the breakaway. And Jens Voigt, no, I'm not coming.
Well, Voigt is waiting for his only chance now and has to come off the back of these four. They're looking for the 1 kilometre to go. Marcus Foten, that is a big, serious effort. He's left the top gear in as he hits this small climb. Well, he was saving something there because Elmiger can't bridge it.
Well, Elmiger's left a gap go now, and now's the time that if this man in the Lamprey jersey wants to get the win, he's got to make the move. And Jens Voigt is going to force him to make that move, and Jens is going to stay in the slipstream for as long as possible. But look how quickly Bernardi got himself across that gap, Phil. He's got the acceleration, he's got that kick this afternoon, and I think he's looking for the win.
Well, that was a wide sweep by Foten, but I'll tell you what, that was clever of Jens Voigt to make the sprinter close the gap, and now it's the sprinter licking his lips here. Coming into the last 500 metres, who's going to take on Daniele Bernardi? They've made him take the lead.
Well, he's just sitting there locked up against the barriers. The reason he's riding there on the left-hand side of the road against the barriers is to force the other riders to come by him. Now he's opening up the gap. He wants to start this sprint from the back position, looking back to see if there's anybody else there. Jens Voigt knows the wheel that he wants. This is going to be like a track, and again, you can see Foten makes the move.
Well, that was a false move, in fact, by Elmiger, but he sat down immediately when they looked across and seen him. Now it's the line-up for the finish, and they've got Martin Elmiger, the former champion of Switzerland, sitting on the front. Bernardi knows he's the fastest, but he's got to make sure he sees the initial move by whomever it's going to be. And Jens Voigt won't move here. Foten's going to be the first. It was telegraphed to the leaders there. Foten's now going. Elmer's on the front, but I think they played into Bernardi's hands here. And through the gap goes Jens Voigt to try and hook up with Daniele Bernardi. But see the difference in the speed here. And Marcus Foten is taking on Bernardi, but Bernardi gets Italy's only second win of the Tour. The other one was Filippo Pozzato on stage 5. It was pretty easy in the end.
Well, it was pretty easy, but very nervous for Daniele Bernardi. He knew he had to do something special. He had to watch everybody. They all knew he was the fastest man in the breakaway here this afternoon. But you never know in a group like this of 4 riders after such a long breakaway, 183 kilometres of breakaway, the body can do funny things, but it didn't for Daniele Bernardi because he got the victory he's been looking for.
He only had one French victory in the Tour de France this year, and there's 2 of them against 2, one from Holland and one from Belgium. 3 major cycling nations here.
Michael Bogert in the orange, very nervous indeed, touches Laurent Lefebvre on the shoulder to say stay on the wheel of Axel Merckx. There was a huge crowd there going through town. Lefebvre in the blue dropping to the back. This is a nice position to create the surprise attack, and he knows that. Merckx in the pink, very attentive. He wants the victory. This is his last year probably as a professional racing cyclist. He's never won a stage in the Tour, and Dad has won more than 30.
Well, they're no longer really working with each other now. They're looking for the opportunity to jump and lift the pace and try and get away. Bogart is itching to have another go at the back of this race, as this is a slight rise. And here, oh, yes it is. He said this is one. He was waited, and then he kicked again. Now, Lefebvre looked as though he was fading a bit there, but he read that move and he's straight on to Bogart.
Sandy Casar was very attentive. He waited to see if anybody else was actually going to make the move, and as soon as he saw that Lefebvre was making the move, he backed off. Casar is actually conserving a little bit of energy. Over these last couple of kilometres, he's never really had to kick. He's saving the only kick that he's got for the final 500 metres. Now Merckx goes.
Well, this is the way you're going to hit until somebody calls it right. Merckx looks over. Lefebvre is very, very observant, but that's fainted. Lefebvre thought he'd answered him, and Merckx kicked again. Now he's got to close the gap.
But, you know, I'd really like Axel Merckx to win this at 3 kilometres to go, though it is still 4 men. The one man who's hoping to survive, he will try and follow all the moves, is 161 in the white jersey at the back. Sandy Casar is battered. Look at that move.
That's the way to go. He's taken the inside. They all never saw him go. That is a great move by Sandy Casar. He's got to take his chance there. He's got to give it a go. And look at that by the man who is injured.
Well, he was injured, but he had a beautiful move. He got the surprise. That's the only way to get the gap. Now they're going to make Michael Bogert do all of the pacemaking to try and pull it back. Lefebvre right onto his wheel. Axel Merckx, look at his body now, rocking around on the top of his saddle. Sandy Casar may well have broken his duck here this afternoon. Never won a stage of the Tour de France. He's been second 3 times. He's 2.5 kilometres to go, and he's hit them really hard.
Well, and I don't think they were expecting that from Casar, and he got them at the right time. He used that obstruction in the road to take the shorter way round. Bogart will be fuming here. He's going to try and put matters to rights. He's gone again. He's realised that 2 kilometres to go and a slight uphill finish. Casar has got a jet motor on here. He is absolutely flying.
But Michael Bogart has got the bit between his teeth. He's not giving any victories away here this afternoon. He's had a tough Tour de France. He's ridden on the front end of the main field mile after mile in the mountains. Now in the final kilometres here, he's looking to try and nail back Sandy Casar. He's almost into the wheel of the Frenchman. He will not give up until he gets there. Neither will the Frenchman give up until he sees that there's somebody right in his slipstream, looks over his shoulder. Don't do that when you're in a breakaway like this. You must not look back because you lose a little bit of your momentum.
1.4 kilometres from the line now as they start to race for the finish here. Merckx is suffering badly. He's trying to hang on to Lefebvre, who is inspired by the fact he is French, and that's a very typical Bogart move. Stick to your guns and try and claw this man back before the line. They are under 1 kilometre to go. There's absolutely nothing in this.
Casar now has gone underneath the 1,000 metre to go, but look at Michael Bogart. He's finding something deep inside his body. Laurent Lefebvre has had the easy ride because he's right on the wheel of Bogart. Axel Merckx, though, is in the slipstream. He's looking weak, he's looking tired. Bogart, nice and calm now. He feels he's got himself into the slipstream of the Frenchman. He's checking his gears. He knows it's a slightly uphill finish. He knows the explosion to the line is going to be very important. Casar gave a big move there. Bogart is in the ideal position, but watch out for this late burst from Axel Merckx. He will not give up himself either. Casar is still in first position. Bogart is looking very nervous. You can almost feel the twitching. He's waiting for the moment to start the sprint. I don't think he's going to be denied here this afternoon.
300 metres to go to the line, and now it is the Français de Gilles rider. How he's kept that 2 or 3 metre advantage. This could be advantage Merckx or Lefebvre. Because if you take a look at Bogart, he's not going to start the sprint till the last minute. And now he's got to go because Sandy Casar thinks they're not going to catch him. If he gets away with this, he was the carrot right in front of them. Now they're ripping for the line now, and still Sandy Casar is trying to go. Axel Merckx is fading away. Casar has got a terrific win, and they've only themselves to blame. That was a fabulous finish by Sandy Casar. The man who fell off, the injured man of the breakaway, is the stage winner of the Tour de France.
This could all very much go down to the last 500 metres of this 55.5 kilometre individual time trial. The Czech there at 35 kilometres, Levi Leipheimer 39.43, Cadel Evans 40.19 has lost 35 seconds to the American. This is turning out to be a humdinger of a battle, I'd have to say, here this afternoon. The last man to get to that time check, though, Phil, is going to be the yellow jersey, and then we'll get an indication as to whether or not Alberto Contador is going to run out as the yellow jersey. I don't know which way to pull. So Alberto Contador now is looking at the time, 35 kilometres for him. It doesn't matter. He's not thinking about winning the individual time trial here this afternoon. What he's thinking about is making sure he conserves as much time as possible to keep the yellow jersey on his shoulders. The time he's more interested in is the time of Cadel Evans, a time of 40 minutes and 19 seconds. I think he's actually improved over this section of the course as he moves up a fraction. This man is dosing his effort. He's riding his time trial on the times of Cadel Evans, which are being fed to him. And with that high-speed cadence that this young man has got, he's actually not going to tire too much down towards the end. So that is not a bad performance, 41.13. He's not yet lost a minute on Cadel Evans. So Cadel Evans is still currently in second position on the road, but Levi Leipheimer is closing up on both of these riders.
Cadel Evans knows now that he's being closed in by Leipheimer, and it could even be at the end of the day that he'll just find he's still in second place behind a different name, if that's the way it's going to be. This young man here at 24, he's built for mountains, he's not built for pure speed, and I think his stamina at 24 in his first Tour de France, when he was sort of thrown into this yellow jersey, might be proving a little bit too much. He's still pulling out an incredible time trial in the Tour de France. At the second check, Contador sitting in 5th place at the moment. Valverde's just gone through only 13th at the third check, which is the last one before the finish. Well, as we look here at Cadel Evans on the left, Evans is second overall at 49 seconds to Alberto Contador. He's closed it down from 1 minute and 50 seconds. He's still looking for 49, and behind him, Leipheimer is also closing the gap.
Well, this is Carlos Sastre. He was 11th there that last time check.
I have to say, Paul, we've never seen Levi ride like this. We've seen him ride brilliant time trials, but this one is very, very special. He's seeing yellow, and he's just going for that yellow jersey as best he can. Well, this is an incredible sight here. Sastre's trying to hold Levi Leipheimer in sight as he can. It's going to be a long haul up here. Valverde's heading for the finish now. It'll be not a great time, better than the one he did in Albi, mind you. And he's trying just to consolidate or hold on to 6th overall. And he's got real problems from Kim Kirken.
Well, there's a lot of riders who are battling in this time trial here this afternoon, Phil, to keep themselves in a high place in the overall classification. Theoretically, we would be waiting for Jaime Zubeldia to come in next, and then after that, it should have been Sastre. But it's not going to be that way at all, because the next man to come in should be Jaime Zubeldia, but then after that, the next man to arrive will be Levi Leipheimer. Any moment now, we should get a time check at 50 kilometers covered, and that is the 3rd time check of the day. Alberto Contador is doing the time trial of his life here this afternoon, and he is still holding on to a 40-second advantage over Cadel Evans. And I wonder if that nasty little climb at 50 kilometers to go is going to help the Spanish climber, because he's using a much smaller gear than Cadel Evans on the left-hand side. Cadel now starting to get that little bit of a nod. He's using a big gear, and it's very difficult not to get tired using a massive gear like that. Contador whips around the corners, around that traffic circle, no problem at all, nice and fast. He's riding now like a downhill skier, keeping the pace up, not losing any momentum at all. Out of the saddle once again. He knows how important this race is going to be for him here this afternoon. Now, Levi Leipheimer has just gone through the 50-kilometer time check with a new best time, 57 minutes 14.
Still waiting to see. Leipheimer's gone through, yes, in 57 minutes and 14 seconds for 50 kilometers, Paul. That's about 31.5 miles in 57 minutes.
Unbelievable the ride that Levi Leipheimer is doing here this afternoon, and I'll tell you what, I've got a funny feeling that when Cadel Evans gets to that time check, Cadel may well have gone behind Levi Leipheimer in the overall classification. A few moments ago, they were only separated by 10 seconds in the virtual overall classification for the race of supremacy. Leipheimer now is at 3 kilometers to go. It's reasonably flat here, but that last 500 meters to the finish line, Phil, that is going to hurt these men.
Well, at the moment, Team Discovery, and we've got to wait for Evans to get there, could be taking top 2 places here in the Tour de France before we go to the final day, because Contador was a minute 29, but he had a little bit more in hand. He's got another minute 20 to lose to Leipheimer on what remains of this course. Leipheimer now 11 seconds at these time checks as far as we can work out. The clock will reveal all when Cadel Evans gets to this 50-kilometer check. Then he will have 5.4 kilometers to race to the line. He's racing for the yellow jersey, but is the man behind him going to spoil the party?
Well, at the second time check, Cadel Evans had lost 35 seconds on Levi Leipheimer. Yes, he'd pull back time on the Spaniard who was leading this race at the start of the day, but he seems to be losing time with every kilometre and every pedal stroke now, Phil, to the man who wears number 111, Levi Leipheimer. And this is a very difficult part of the course. This is on the other side of the town of Angoulême, the climb up to the time check at 50.1 kilometres.
Well, at the finish, the arrival of Zubeldia here at a minute 6 and counting. Another good ride by a man who started the day in the top 5 places and should hang on to his position overall as they go up to the finish. It's been a tough day in the time trial. All of the action, of course, saved till the back, and it looks as though the back riders are going to win the time trial and the Tour de France today. He gets in 16th place, 1:06.50 for Zubeldia. That's a good ride for that man. He gets to slow down, back to Evans.
Well, Cadel Evans now is getting out of the saddle, looking at this time check at 50.1 kilometers covered. That's just over the summit of this climb. And Levi Leipheimer is going to win the time trial, but is he going to win the Tour?
Here we go, Paul, the long ride to the finish now. Karpitzer looked terrific with a 1:4.40. Leipheimer is going to burn this off the face of the map here. We're looking at an average speed of in excess of 52 kilometers an hour.
This is a phenomenal performance here. He's not really worried about winning the stage. I think at this point he's thinking about possibly winning the Tour de France overall. He's going to walk away with the stage here this afternoon, Phil, and it's going to be a phenomenal performance. He's still not even getting out of that skier's tucked down position. That has been his big advantage here this afternoon, and as well the big power in his thighs. He's not even got out of the saddle yet, and he's,
well,
he is now.
I'll tell you what, Paul, it counts bad this, because the last 5 kilometres he is 8 seconds behind Cadel Evans at the last time check. That just come through, so he's got to improve that 8 seconds in these last 5 kilometres to get ahead of Evans, so that will count. 1:2:44 for the time, 53.1 kilometres now. That's one of the fastest ever time trials in the Tour de France. All the time Evans was concentrating on the yellow jersey. The man from behind has done the ride of his life here. 1:03:43. He has to get to the line, otherwise he's lost out to Leipheimer. He's going to have to go a little bit harder, I think. It's an awful long way up this home straight. He is banging out the rhythm on these pedals. I don't think Cadel Evans can win the Tour de France, but at the moment he's been more concerned about hanging on to second place. 1:03:43. He's got to beat to the line. It is going to be a desperate few minutes here. It is still a way up here. He's still got a few seconds to get up the hill, and he can't quite make it. 1:03:43. Those are the figures. We're counting to 1:03:30. Leipheimer is watching this as well, remember. He's looking at second in the Tour de France. If Cadel Evans he's got there. 1:03:35. 50 seconds behind. He had 59. He has pulled out a magical last 5 kilometres.
But Alberto Contador has just gone through with the 5th best time at 50.1 kilometres covered.
This is going to go down as the closest ever finish in the Tour de France between the top 3 riders, all on the podium. This fight could continue tomorrow, you know. Here he comes now. Forget Vladimir Karpich, who we thought had done the ride of his life. Contador is the man who's done the ride of his life. Look at the face of the rider in yellow.
Don't look at his face, look at the clock, because for Alberto Contador, Phil, he wants to see less than 1:05:25 on the clock, on the gantry above the finishing line, because if he does that, he'll know that he's still in the lead in this bike race. Yes, the lead is a lot less than it was at the start this morning, but that doesn't really matter when you're looking at the Champs-Élysées. He's still trying to keep that cadence. It's a very high cadence now. He's out of the saddle. 1:04:43. He's looking, Phil, and not very many seconds to go.
I don't know if you could see the man in the car behind is Lance Armstrong, the man who won it 7 times. He part owns this team. It's going to be a good ride for Contador as he now sprints. This man has gone through all kinds of suffering, but he's done it. He's saved his Tour de France by about 20 seconds, I would think. He will win the Tour tomorrow. 23 seconds, we reckon.
Well, that was a phenomenal individual time trial by that man. I'm sure he was inspired by the presence of Lance Armstrong behind him, but we've seen this Tour de France get completely and utterly reduced. It was massive gaps before we came in here. 150 over Cadel Evans, 250 over Levi Leipheimer. Still, this man is going to run out as the overall leader tonight. Still over Cadel Evans and still over Levi Leipheimer, but the gaps have been reduced.
Now, as the riders are starting to go out for the last time across the Place de la Concorde, and now they go around the back as they line up now for the sprint finish.
Well, on the far side of the circuit there is the French Parliament, but they're not too worried about that as they try to get themselves organised. I noticed Tom Boonen seen an awful long way down there, about 10th or 12th position. They're charging down now. They're in a very long line. This is Anthony Charteau suffering at the back end of the main field. Now we are coming down to the final sprint, 2.2 kilometres to go to the finish line. Here we go. This is Team Lampre now on the front end of the main field, queuing up behind. You can just see Eric Zabel not too far away. There is also Julian Dean. On his wheel is, in fact, Thor Hushoff. Everyone's now getting very nervous as they try to get themselves sorted out for the final 2 kilometres of this year's Tour de France. We can't see the yellow jersey. He will just be safely in the main field. And there he is, locked on the wheel of Cadel Evans. Right behind him is George Hincapie, looking after his man until the final possible moment. Now into the tunnel for the last time. Will it be the whole of the main field come out all together, stretched out into one very big long line? Looking down there now, here we come. Still, the men from Lampre are running out of numbers, getting themselves organised at the front end of the main field. Julian Dean was right up there, and they're now going to be lining themselves up for the final kilometre.
The flags of Norway flying, Paul, the flags of Thor Hushovd indeed. This might be a big finish for him now, but they're trying to lead out Daniele Bernati. This is going to be all of the sprinters together.
Well, right there in second position, Julian Dean. I cannot see the position of Thor Hushovd at all. I can see moving up there Jaroslav Popovic looking pretty good. A couple of riders from Quick Step, Tom Boonen moving up the main field now into around about 8th position. On the Champs-Elysees, that's not bad. He's right on the wheel of Robbie Hunter.
He is indeed. He's trying to get over the top of Robbie Hunter here now, and Robbie Hunter and Tom Boonen are about 6th or 7th as they come across the pace. Place de la Concorde now, when they turn up for the finish, it's about 250 metres to the line. The sprinters are itching. Remember, Boonen has won here before, but this one is special. He needs the points. The teammates are swinging off now as they head onto the front of the... Now they can see the finish. Watch for the green jersey of Robbie Hunter. Contador also. This is the big lead out now. Bernati sitting and waiting. Hushovd in third wheel. Zabel goes on the right of our picture. Robbie Hunter, a big effort on the left, head to head with Tom Boonen in green. But Thor Hushovd is still pushing on as Hunter tries desperately. They switch across the road. It looks like it was Bernati from Hushovd, Zabel, Hunter on the line.
Well, that was a very confusing sprint for everybody. Tom Boonen was trying to come up through the middle. Let's not forget the yellow jersey, arms in the air. This is the kick, though, here. This is phenomenal move by Bernati. Robbie Hunter on the far side was not going to get the victory at all as he charges up to the line, but Daniele Bernati has got himself the kick ahead of everybody else. Hushovd on the inside is coming up, so too is Eric Zabel, but they're all too late to get the man from Italy. As he looks down one last time for confirmation, he's still got the power in those thighs as he lunges for the line, salutes the crowd, and it was a brilliantly timed win by this man. But Alberto Contador is the yellow jersey, is the winner of the 2007 Tour.